Hello, welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. My name's Alyssa, and this is my review for Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 5, Reflections. Spoiler warning, of course, is in effect if you have not seen up through the end of this episode. So, real quickly before I jump into it, a correction from my episode 4 review. I kept conflating episodes 2 and 3 and referring to parts of episodes 2 and 3 as last week, when actually episode 2 would have been 2 weeks ago at that point. I realized that as soon as I uploaded it, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to record it all over again, so whatever. I did write a correction in the comments, but just to clear the air on that one. All the episodes are just going by so quickly that I'm just getting them all mixed up together, but it is what it is. Anyways, let's talk about this week's episode, which is definitely this week's episode, Episode 5, Reflections. So I think that Lower Decks is continuing with this trend of very solid, very enjoyable, good episodes, but not the greatest episodes of the series or anything like that. And as I said last week, I think that is totally fine with me. Last year we got like the Mugato episode that I didn't like. In season 1, there was 1 or 2 in there in the first half of the season that I didn't like. But I've liked all of these episodes, though none of them will be listed as like the best of the series. I've enjoyed all of them. This one wasn't laugh out loud funny, but the main storyline, at least, was not going for comedy. It was more of a serious character exploration of Rutherford, and I have been calling for this. I have been talking about the last couple seasons how Rutherford is kind of behind the other 3 main characters as far as character development goes. I'm like, we need more. And they hinted at some mysterious past at the end of season 2, and we go back to that in this episode, and that's good. I want the show to explore that, and I found it very interesting. Now, the subplot with Mariner and Boimler at the Starfleet booth was going for comedy, and I didn't think that was like hilariously funny, but it was cute, so it was fine. But let me go ahead quickly and talk about each of the storylines. I'll start with the Rutherford one. So we get the reveal that there's more depth to Rutherford's character. There's more history to this character than we realized. And he definitely was a golly gee willikers or okie dokie type of character. And I actually just recorded a video recently where I talked about Harry Kim and how I always thought he was too golly gee willikers for my taste, and he never really grew as a character. Whereas Rutherford was kind of in that same mold, but since it's Lower Decks and it's an animated show, it's even like more extreme. So to see that he has this background where he was like more of the bad boy, basically building motorcycles for all intents and purposes, space motorcycles, that was interesting to me. And I was so glad that when Rutherford turned evil, it wasn't like an alien presence as Rutherford thought it was. It was actually him, which was so much more interesting to go in that direction. And once again, Lower Decks is bringing in that theme of community and teamwork, and my friends are where it's at, and I appreciate that. It might be on the touch of the corny side, but it warms my heart. I really appreciated that in order for Rutherford to win the race, the Rutherford that we know, the present Rutherford, to win the race against the past Rutherford, he got his friends. He's like, well, I can imagine whenever I want, and I want my friends here with me. So I thought that was nice. And that is the advantage that he ultimately had over his past self, who went, just wanted to go on his own, went rogue. And I really liked the line at the end where the past self was dying, and he's like, no, you know what? It's time for us to grow. So we need to move forward and grow. So I need to be left behind. That was really touching to me, too. That even the bad boy part of Rutherford still understood that they need to become a better person. So I thought that that was really touching as well. So I actually really liked this story. And I really did appreciate the callback to Star Trek 2 where he goes, "Remember." that was really... It made no sense for Rutherford to do like a Vulcan mind meld gesture on the other Rutherford's face, but I appreciated the reference. And we get a little bit more into Rutherford's mysterious past that we got hinted at the end of season 2, where it seems like somebody high up in Starfleet is doing something shady and needed to cover up something. I'm interested in this. This isn't, again, the comedy part of Lower Decks, but this is interesting storytelling, and I want to see a reprise of this later in the season. I'm sure we'll get it at some point this season. All right, let me now move over to the Mariner and Boimler of it all. Okay, so finally we get the Starfleet recruiting scene that we saw in the preseason trailer. I was wondering this last week, like, when are we going to get that Starfleet recruiting scene? And I feel like they probably have shown us everything from the trailer. I'm not sure if there's anything that's still left hanging out there. I'd have to go back and watch the trailer again. I don't know. But this was the big thing that they had in the trailer that we hadn't seen yet. And we finally do get it. For the most part, through most of this episode, I don't know. Like, the archaeologist just kind of heckling Mariner and all of that. That was kind of, I don't know, silly. It wasn't really particularly interesting to me. But I did love that Boimler, like, is the one who flipped his lid, and Boimler is the one who had the temper tantrum. I mean, it was kind of predictable because that too is sort of a overused trope. I mean, going all the way back to Trouble with Tribbles, where Scotty was the one who was calm and collective, and he ends up being the one who starts the fight because the Klingons insult the Enterprise. It's a trope that has been used before, but it was fun. It was cute. I did enjoy it. I didn't even catch this, but I saw another review that mentioned that Boimler goes up to the move along home aliens and is like, "Stop putting people in games!" Like, that's pretty funny. I'll have to go back and watch that again. And I love that the uniforms is the thing that set him off. And we get the verbal confirmation that California class does indeed wear different uniforms. We've seen it. We saw the Carlsbad also had the same uniforms as the Cerritos, so you could pretty much infer that that was the case, but we actually get verbal confirmation. But I love how the guy was like, "Well, the uniforms are great. Why do they keep changing them?" That is a good question. We haven't gotten into Picard yet, Star Trek Picard. They've changed the uniforms like 10 times in Star Trek Picard alone. But yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought that was great. I don't know where they're going with this Mariner and the archaeologist thing, where they seem to be setting up for another meeting between them, and almost seems to be some underlying, romantic things going on there. But what about Jennifer the Andorian? We finally get her mentioned in episode 3, and this time I know it was definitely episode 3, 2 weeks ago. Finally got her mentioned, but still not seeing that. I want to see that before we move on to Mariner's next person. So, come on. I need to see some Jennifer the Andorian action here. Also, this is random, but what happened to the Vulcan from Wage Douche? I felt like they set up for her to come back. So there's a lot of things Lower Decks are going to have to do in the second half of the season. They got a lot of loose story threads that they need to tie up, I feel. Anyways, yeah, so this storyline was fine. And I did appreciate the Boimler explosion, but overall, I'm more into this episode because of the Rutherford character story. Even if it wasn't funny, it was interesting. Alright, let me go ahead and wrap this week's review up with my rating out of 10. 1 would be the lowest possible score, 10 is the highest possible score. And my rating for Season 3, Episode 5 of Lower Decks is an 8. Really strong, solid 8. I was really intrigued by the Rutherford storyline. I've been calling for it for a couple of seasons. Like, we need more Rutherford backstory, and this is very interesting. I'm interested, and I want to see where they're going with this. And the Boimler Mariner stuff, as I said, it was cute, it was fun. Not the greatest, but I enjoyed it. So it is a solid 8 out of 10 this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Please join me next week as I review episode 6 of Lower Decks. Also, check out all of my other content. I am releasing content about my transition, so if you're interested in that, you can check that out. Also, I just released my House of the Dragon mid-season review and predictions for the second half of the season, so check out all of that, and I will see you all really soon. Goodbye.